LayerZero has been making a lot of news lately, and in this video I'll give you a brief overview of what LayerZero is and how it functions and why they're building a product that will take crypto, DeFi and our whole ecosystem to a whole another level. Hello everyone, welcome to One Life Investments. If you are new here, welcome to the channel and subscribe and hit the bell icon for more crypto content that is aimed for beginners. Please remember that none of the content on this channel, including this video, should be considered as a financial advice. All the content is for educational and entertainment purposes only, and always please make sure you do your own research before making any financial decisions. As always, I'll try my best to explain it in a way that everyone can understand. For anyone wanting to learn more about the tech or the core fundamentals, all the links to the descriptions or the resources will be in the description below. First, let's talk about what is LayerZero. From the definition from the article, LayerZero is the first trustless omni-chain interoperability protocol which provides a powerful low-level communication primitive upon which a diverse set of cross-chain applications can be built. Now, there's a lot of things to unpack there, so let's unpack that a bit and I'll actually explain that what this means using a diagram that I just created. Before we get started, please make sure to give this video a thumbs up, as that helps out the channel and helps the channel to put out more content in the future. In the image, what you see is the current state of the crypto ecosystem that has multiple chains on it. So for example, to put it simple, if you want to move things to different chains at the moment, what you need to do is you need to use something called a bridge. For example, you have Synapses bridge, you have Seller bridge, and there's different kinds of bridges. Wormhole bridge, if you heard about it. So what they do is, for example, if you have an asset called X on Ethereum, so for example, if I bought an asset called X on Uniswap using Ethereum, if I want to transfer that asset to Solana or any DEXs that runs in Solana, for example, Orca, Francium, all that stuff, what I need to do currently is I cannot directly go to that blockchain, right? I need to transfer assets using a bridge to another blockchain. But what's happening is you are transferring an asset to the bridge where the assets are being locked up, and the bridge confirms that you have locked your assets. If it confirms that you have actually locked your asset called X that you want to bridge or send over to the destination chain, it unlocks the assets on the other end. So most of the times it is a wrapped asset. It is not a native asset. So what happens is this point of failure is single. If you heard about the wormhole exploit and you've heard about different other bridges exploit, and also why Vitalik and actually a lot of people that have been in the industry or the OGs of this industry don't really like bridges for that reason, because they're not secure and they have a single point of failure, right? So as you can see, this is the current state. And if you want to do some DeFi stuff, for example, there's a farm on Solana or farm on Orca that has a really high APY, and you have that asset on Ethereum. So at the moment, what you need to do is you need to bridge the asset, right? To bridge the asset, you need to approve the asset first. So that's one transaction, and you have to approve the asset on the other blockchain as well. That's another transaction, and you have to stake it. That's another transaction. You have to manage it. Withdrawal also takes another transaction. So it's very costly and it's very time consuming and very, very messy. And if you're actually doing it with a large amount of funds, the risk of getting exploited can be very high. So now enter LayerZero. Don't get overwhelmed with the image. I created by myself because the one provided by LayerZero is quite good, but it might confuse a lot of people. So for example, with LayerZero implemented, right? So what LayerZero has, LayerZero comprises of LayerZero layer, there's an oracle, and each ecosystem or each blockchain has a LayerZero endpoint that is managed by LayerZero team, right? So basically what happens is, for example, I have an asset on ETH, but I want to sell it on Solana. For example, let's just say on Orca or Francium, any DEX on Solana. So before we had to do is we had to bridge the asset using a bridge, get a wrapped asset, and then approve that asset, and then swap it, and then send that funds back using the bridge again, and then you'll get your asset called X on ETH and on Solana as well. But with LayerZero implemented, what you can do is with one transaction, as you can see, with one transaction, you can send the transaction through to Uniswap, and Uniswap will actually go and talk to LayerZero endpoint, and then that endpoint talks to LayerZero, LayerZero talks to another endpoint on Solana, and that transaction goes through. So what happens is, for example, I want to sell X on ETH. Okay, so what happens is, so you will send one transaction to Uniswap that you want to sell your asset on, let's say Solana. So what happens is the transaction goes through to the LayerZero endpoint, right? And then endpoint basically sends out the confirmation to the relayer and the oracle as well that the user has actually deposited that asset X on ETH, or has actually sent through a transaction where that user wants to transact X, right? And then that relayer or the oracle talks to the LayerZero relayer and the oracle, and that communicates back to the endpoint on the other end of the blockchain, for example, in this case, Solana. And what happens is, after the LayerZero endpoint on Solana gets information from the oracle that actually the transaction has gone through on the ETH side, then it releases assets, but these assets are actually not wrapped, but native assets. So beauty is, you are sending one transaction and LayerZero is looking after all the transactions that happens after that and gives you the end result, right? So now what this does is it opens the possibilities for people or the developers to develop dApps that sit on one layer or sit on one layer one blockchain. For example, Uniswap, if it implements LayerZero and then it communicates with all the blockchains, you can sit on Uniswap and you can sell your assets directly on Solana, or you can stake, or you can do DeFi farming on Solana by staying on Uniswap or Ethereum. So now this is not just for EVM compatible chains, but they're working for Solana, they're working for Terra and all the blockchains. So this is not blockchain specific. And as you compare to the traditional or the current state of crypto, what we have is Oracle. If you know about Chainlink, Band protocol and all that stuff, a lot of projects rely on their Oracle price feeds for information. So now by implementing an Oracle, usually it's up to the dApp deployer on what Oracle they want to use, but LayerZero suggests Chainlink because Chainlink has been around for a long time, and the relayer actually relies on the information from the Oracle. So until and unless the Oracle confirms that the information coming from the one end is accurate, correct and everything, and only then the relayer actually speaks to the other side confirming that the Oracle has received the data and the data is true, and then it releases the assets, right? So in this case, for the LayerZero to fail or to be an exploit, there has to be an exploit in the Oracle as well. So for example, so simply put, LayerZero will fail if the oracles start to have issues, and until now we haven't had any issues with the oracles, so the security level is very high with LayerZero. So this opens up the possibilities for dApp to capture liquidity, capture DeFi gains, to capture everything on other blockchains as well, staying in one blockchain. I hope that was clear. If not, please let me know in the comments below, and if there's any questions or queries, I'll try to answer that. If you'd like to know about the partnerships, if you'd like to know about the investors, there's quite a lot of investors. Any big name in crypto industry has invested in LayerZero. The first protocol or the first project from LayerZero is Stargate. They've launched Stargate, but we don't have any tokens yet. No one knows if there will be an airdrop for LayerZero or if there will be other procedures for that. So there's a really nice article from Sequoia regarding all the background on how they found the team or how they found the people that were building LayerZero and what kind of team and how much trust they have in this team, right? So read the article, it's pretty interesting. But they've recently raised 135 million to create omnichannel crypto networks. As you can see, this was led by Sequoia Capital, FTX Ventures, Andreessen Horowitz, and participant with Coinvest Ventures, PayPal Ventures, Tiger Global, Uniswaps, and much more. So every big VC is on LayerZero, and you can see why they're so excited about LayerZero, because this breaks down the barriers in different blockchain. It solves the issues of liquidity fragmentations across different blockchains as well. And imagine a world where you have an app that works with everything, right? For example, you have an application on Windows, but imagine that application natively works with Linux, works with macOS and all that stuff. So this is a no-brainer for any dApp developer to build on LayerZero eventually, right? So I hope that was helpful. I have mentioned all the links to the resources and the information I've used in this video in the description. If you have any questions, any queries, as always, suggestions, please leave them in the comments. Please follow me on Twitter at OneLifeInvestment, and I'll make sure that I keep you updated regarding any future developments on LayerZero or anything that relates to LayerZero. All right, until then, I hope you have a nice day. I hope this was helpful. Thank you and take care.